Assalamualaikum. My name is Saima, leadership class student at Ryan School, our campus. Today I was talk with Miles on some topics.
Hey there.
Hi,
What's shaking?
Miles. My first question is, what is matter?
Usually, when people ask what's the matter, they're picking up on a vibe that something's off, like you're looking stressed or just not your usual self. It's basically a way of checking in to see if you're struggling with something. You want to know if that's how you've been hearing it or if you're thinking of it in a different way,
Okay, Miles. My next question is, what are the three main state of matter?
Shifting gears to science. The three main ones are solid, liquid, and gas. Most of the stuff in the world fits into one of those buckets.
Okay, Miles. My next question is, can matter be created?
Short answer no. In physics, there's this rule called the law of conservation, based in the water, but the total amount of stuff stays the same. I've heard there are some wild edge cases in quantum physics involving energy and mass. You want to hear about those?
Okay, Miles. My next question is,
Right?
what is mass?
I'm all Think of mass as the amount of actual stuff inside an object. It's not the same as weight, which is just how hard gravity is pulling on that stuff. So if you went to the moon, your weight would change, but your mass stays exactly the same because you're still made of the same amount of atoms. Does that make sense? Sweet. What's next on the list?
Okay, Miles. My next question is, what is solid?
A solid is basically anything that keeps its own shape. Unlike liquids or gases, the particles in a solid are packed tight and just vibrate in place rather than sliding around. That's why a rock doesn't just flow across the floor when you drop it. Ever wonder why some solids like ice can actually melt into a liquid?
Okay, Miles. My next question is, what is volume?
Volume is basically the amount of space an object takes up, whether it's a tiny pebble or a whole building. Volume is just a measure of how much room it occupies. You can think of it like filling a bucket with water. The more water you put in, the more volume you filled.
Okay, Miles. My next question is, how do we measure volume?
Depends on what you're measuring. For liquids, you probably use things like measuring cups or graduated cylinders. For solids, it's a bit different. If it's a regular shape, you can just use a ruler and do some math. But for weird shapes, you can just drop them in water and see how much the water level rises. Pretty clever, right?
Okay, Miles. My next question is, what is the difference
I'm
between
ready.
mass and weight?
We touched on this a bit earlier, but it's the classic mix up. Mass is the actual amount of matter in you, while weight is just a measure of gravity's pull on that mass. Like I said, your mass stays the same whether you're on Earth or floating in space, but your weight changes depending on where you are. Pretty straightforward once you see it that way, right?
Okay, Miles. My next question is, what are atoms?
Atoms are basically the building blocks of everything. Imagine the world as a giant Lego set, and atoms are the individual bricks. Everything you see, touch, and breathe is just a massive collection of these tiny particles arranged in different ways. They're so small you can't even see them with a regular microscope. Ever wonder what's actually inside one of those atoms?
Okay, Miles. My next question is, what is gas? In
Gas is,
detail.
is the wild one. Let's dive deep. Gas is basically matter that's completely lost its chill. The particles are moving at high speeds, bouncing off each other and everything else they hit, which is why gas fills up whatever container it's in. Unlike solids or liquids, there's a ton of space between those particles, which makes gas easy to compress. Think of squeezing a balloon. It's basically a chaotic dance of molecules just flying around until they hit a wall. Pretty wild when you think about it.
Okay, Miles, my next question is what are elements?
Elements are like the
In
the
detail.
pure flavors. Got it. Deep dive mode. An element is a substance that's made of only one kind of atom. Think of it as the most basic version of a material. You can't break it down into anything simpler using chemistry. If you have a piece of pure gold, every single atom in that piece is a gold atom. That's why gold is gold. All these different elements are organized on the periodic table, which is basically a giant cheat sheet for the universe. Some are super common, like oxygen, which you're breathing right now, and some are so rare or unstable they only exist for a fraction of a second in a lab. The real magic happens when elements bond together to make compounds, like how hydrogen and oxygen team up to make water. Want to know how we actually figure out which element is something is?
Okay, Miles,
It's
my
all about
next
the
question
protons.
is what are compounds?
Compounds are basically the team ups of the chemistry
In
world.
detail.
They happen when you got it. Let's get into the weeds. A compound is what you get when two or more different elements chemically bond together to create something completely new. It's not just a mixture like sand in a bucket, it's a permanent chemical marriage. Take water as the perfect example. You've got hydrogen, which is a flammable gas, and oxygen, which supports fire. But when they bond into a compound, they become H2O, a liquid that actually puts out fires. The properties of the compound are totally different from the elements that make it up. It's like how flour, eggs, and sugar are just ingredients, but once you bake them, you have a cake. You can't just unbake the cake to get the eggs back. Think it's crazy how two things can team up and basically change their entire identity.
Okay, Miles, my next question is what is pure substance? In
A
detail.
pure substance is basically the no. Oh, that's getting into the details. A pure substance is something that consists of only one type of particle. It's a material that's the same all the way through, no matter where you take a sample from. That could be a single element like a piece of pure silver or a compound like distilled water. Basically, if it's not a mixture of different things, it's a pure substance. Make sense?
Okay, Miles, my next question is what is density?
Density is basically how tightly packed the stuff inside an object is. Think of it like a crowded elevator versus one with just two people. The elevator with 10 people is more dense, even if the elevator itself is the same size. It's why a small piece of lead feels way heavier than a big piece of styrofoam. Ever wonder why some things float while others sink?
Okay, Miles, my next question is what is a liquid?
A liquid is basically the middle ground between a solid and a gas. It takes the shape of whatever
In
container you pour it
detail.
into. But unlike gas, all right, let's go deep on liquids. In a liquid, the particles are still close together, but they've got enough energy to slide and glide past one another. That's why liquids flow and can be poured, whereas solids just sit there. They have a definite volume, meaning a cup of water is still a cup of water, whether it's in a bowl or a bottle, but they have no fixed shape. It's kind of like a crowd of people at a concert. Everyone is close, but they're all shifting around and moving to the music. I've heard there's some interesting stuff about viscosity, which is basically how thick or sticky a liquid is. You want to dive into that?
Okay, Miles, my next question is what is a plasma found? In
Plasma is like
detail.
plasma is like no problem. You're welcome. What's next on the list?
Miles, what is sublimation in detail?
Sublimation is basically when a substance skips the middleman. Instead of going from a solid to a liquid and then to a gas, it just jumps straight from solid to gas. It's like a fast forward button for phase changes. The most common example is dry ice, which is solid carbon dioxide. If you leave it out on a table, it doesn't melt into a puddle, it just turns directly into that thick white fog you see at concerts or haunted houses. It happens when the particles in the solid get enough energy to break free completely without ever becoming a
Okay,
liquid.
Miles.
Pretty wild, right?
Bye.